Welcome to the happy hour. I am your host, Dr. Elia, and every week we bring you guests from all over the world with inspiring and empowering stories of resilience, of love, of happiness, of kindness, of success, of leadership. So without further ado, let me introduce to you today's guest, all the way from Greece and Australia and the United States. This is a world citizen, you guys. Kon Apostolopoulos. That's a fine Irish name, isn't it? So, or as she's known, Coach Kon, who is a best-selling author and international keynote speaker. His most recent book, The Engagement Blueprint, Creating a Culture of Commitment and Performance. He's also the co-author of the book, the critically acclaimed book, 7 Keys to Navigating a Crisis, which was the first book about the pandemic that hit the market worldwide, co-wrote it with yours truly. More importantly, he's a great father. He's a great husband. And I see Coach Kon sort of like the conductor of an orchestra. He goes into organizations that are struggling and starts getting all the players to play in tune and to align them from top leadership, from C-suite, all the way down to the manager level. Coach Kon, welcome to the show.
Wow. With that kind of an introduction, I better live up to that.
Well, I have more things to say about you. Wait, there's more. You think I'm done? I'm not done.
It is such a pleasure to be with you, my brother.
Thank you. Of all the success that you've had, and you have a business, a consulting firm, Fresh Biz Solutions, that's thriving, you're working with organizations all over the planet. You know what the most important thing, and this is to my audience, is about this man, is that for years, in his spare time, I don't even know where he has his spare time, he has been coaching girls' soccer teams, but not just coaching them. He was voted Coach of the Year in the state of Colorado a few years ago. He's so commitment to the development, and this is the important thing, and this is how it plays out in the corporate world too. Not just those young women as soccer players, but develop them to be fine human beings. And then he combines that with, of course, coaching the C-suite and so on. Coach Kon, welcome to the show. Now I'm done. Well, I can think of more things to introduce you, but I think that's enough for now. My friend, tell us your story briefly. Where you came from, where you were born, and how did you get here?
Well, you touched on it, and thank you for having me, Elia. I do consider myself a citizen of the world. I've spent big parts of my life in Australia, where I was born to immigrant parents there. They returned to Greece, where I spent all of my formative years growing up, my schooling years, university, military service, all of my time there, my early professional career there, and then eventually finding my wife and migrating to the US, where I am here as a first generation pursuing the American dream and creating a life for our family to make a difference to the people that we serve and to our community here. So yeah, from that perspective, I feel very, very blessed to have the opportunity to have lived and worked across the world and to have early exposure to a lot of different cultures, a lot of different ways of doing things, which opened up my mind to being much more receptive to new ideas, to diversity, to inclusion, and a lot of the themes that we've come to appreciate and realize how important they are today in our societies and in our workplaces.
And Coach Kon, I love the diversity background. I mean, most people, either they're from one country that born and raised and stay there, or like myself and you and other guests that I've had on the show that they were born and raised somebody else, and then they migrated to the United States. You are truly like, you have not only 3 countries, 3 continents. Talk a little bit about some of the adversity you faced early on in your life. I mean, you come from humble beginnings. You've been very open about sharing that. And how did you get from there to here personally? And then we'll switch and talk a little bit about the amazing work that you do for organizations, because just wait till you hear what he does. All right. So,
well, one thing that I've realized, Elia, is that experiences can teach us or they can traumatize us. And that is a big part of what shapes us as human beings and our well-being, our mental health, our fortitude, our ability to cope with things. It's what you call the university of adversity in many ways. For my piece, I grew up in a household that was full of love, but not your traditional household that has a lot of affluent luxuries. I didn't realize how poor we were actually until I left the house and realized how things were. But we were never short on love, on caring, on attention from our parents when we needed it. And so they cared for us. They showed us that we were loved, we were comforted, we felt a good self-esteem, a healthy balance early on. The challenges that we faced were from some of the inevitable decisions that my parents had to make, migrating back and forth, being in a situation where they were pursuing a better life for us. When you're young, that kind of upheaval can really, really create problems for you that can wreak havoc in who you are and your self-esteem, in a lot of those things. But like I said, I choose to let that teach me rather than traumatize me. And from that, I embraced my ability to become adaptable, to become flexible in this workplace, to really feel like I can belong anywhere. I can find commonalities and I can find my footing in any kind of environment. And that was the blessing of growing up from that. Now, again, being in an environment that I am and being in a very traditional culture, being the oldest and male child, I was sent off at a very early age to go work. So schooling, as much as my parents wanted to support me, was not the biggest priority, but being able to provide and help support the family was a big part of that. So I spent some of my early years.
How old did you start work? I'm kind of curious. Like,
well, let's just say that child labor laws in Greece were very flexible back then. So
it's a
I was
very
sent
funny
off
way of
at
saying that. Yeah.
I was sent off at the age of 12 to apprentice with an uncle and ended up working as a day laborer in construction and with paint crews and working in commercial construction buildings. So I went to school at night, and that comes with its own set of challenges. And even when I switched later on and I worked in the evenings and went to school in the morning, a lot of times my teachers would understand, and many of them would be patient with me as I kind of snoozed off in the back corner because I hadn't slept a whole lot the night before and I was very tired. But I made it through school and I realized how much I love to learn. So when times changed and I had the opportunity to really pursue a lot more learning, especially when I came to the States, and I realized that the companies that I worked for provided me with a lot of learning opportunities, I tried to make up for a lot of that lost ground. And it allowed me to really appreciate learning. And perhaps that's one of the reasons why I became a teacher and a trainer.
And a coach.
And a coach.
You know what's really interesting? I've known you for a long time. I consider you like my brother, my younger brother. You and I are there for one another. We celebrate our successes. We're there for one another with our setbacks. And you have always been there for me, and I hope I've always been there for you, my brother. It's interesting that you're like at the age of 12, 13, you start working as a laborer, as a kid, basically as an apprentice in construction firms. What's really fascinating, you guys, is that this man is the preeminent consultant and executive coach specifically for billion-dollar construction companies. So think about how, I mean, imagine like this 12-year-old, young man, young boy in Greece, just, doing the labor stuff that he's doing. And now he's working with CEOs of huge construction companies. And I know that when you come in, they bring you in obviously because they're hurting. If they were doing well, they wouldn't hire you.
Right.
So you come in at somewhat, let's say dysfunctional organizations in a lot of ways, people working in silos, not really communicating with one another. And here you come in. That's why you're almost like an organizational Sherpa that's taking them up to the, Mount Everest in some ways of leadership and cohesion and employee engagement. So let's shift gears a little bit and tell me how you help organizations and why. I guess, you and I are both into happiness. Why is it so important that engaged employees are happy employees and the benefits of that to the entire organization and even the bottom line?
Right. Well, let's unpack that a little bit. Let me answer the first part of your question first. The best way for me to describe how I help and support my clients, most of them have these big strategic plans, these big visions of what they want to accomplish. And they've spent a lot of time, resources trying to put that together. But that's just a paper exercise. It's not worth even the paper it's written on if you don't have the people in place to execute those plans. If you don't have the horses to run the race, what are you going to do? It's just a plan. So where I come in is I can come in and help them align all their resources. Like you said, like a good conductor, making sure that all the instruments are playing at the right pace, the right tone, the right location. Everything is in place and aligned to make sure that people both can and will perform and execute according to the plan. Excuse me. So
No worries.
essentially, think about it in the terms of really putting those resources, creating a people plan that supports the strategic business plan, and making sure that executives now have the confidence that they have the people on their side to be able to make this happen. And they can go into everyday battles much more confident, equipped with the knowledge that their people can execute. So that's one of the things. The second part of your question. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, so how much time do we actually spend at work? Like percentage wise of our conscious awake, not, I know we sleep 6 or 7 hours, so let's subtract that from the 24 hours a day. How much time do we actually spend at work, honestly? More
Well,
or less.
if you're asking about you and me, I mean, we spend almost all of our waking hours thinking about how we serve others.
But the average person that goes to
the
work.
average person, for the average person, think about it. If we say, let's say 8 hours is my work day, and let's say I can shut it off after that, that's still a third of my day. That's still a third of my conscious time, my ability, my 24-hour day that I am involved somehow with my work, whether I'm trying to contribute to make a difference or I'm trying to run away from it like many people are.
Right.
So that's a big part of my day.
So why are you so passionate about happiness at work and having employees that are like, and I have talked about that, the idea of the work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like an oxymoron. I don't know if anybody has balance, but you and I have said work-life integration. There's two questions here. One is how you've been able to do that the last few years and have manifested this beautiful life, which I do want to talk about but the other thing is specifically for the employees, how do they integrate their work and their life so they can, I guess, thrive in both aspects versus getting burned out versus being miserable versus being cranky when they get home and
Right.
taking it out on the family and so on.
Well, okay. So think about the amount of time that we spend at work. That's huge relative to what we're speaking.
Right.
So the way that we feel about our work engagement, if we are engaged at work, if we are having positive experiences at work, that gives us joy in life. I mean, we look at the numbers right now, even the most recent reports, Elia, report that people that are at work and engaged are significantly less lonely, for example. Loneliness, the big epidemic right now, than people that are out of work. The unemployed are about 32% reporting as feeling lonely, 32% of the time, versus employed people that are reporting about 20% of the time they might feel lonely. And even with people that work remote,
okay,
there are benefits to interacting with others, even through the electronic media that we have right now. So that's a big part of it. But happiness at work and engagement at work, related, but not exactly the same. I know people that are happy at work, but they're not engaged. They're not engaged. Engage is a deeper thing. It's a deeper kind of happiness. It's a deeper kind of involvement. It's the kind of involvement that you described in your first book, The 7 Paths to Lasting Happiness. That's a much deeper experience because we want to contribute. We want to give back. We want to engage. It's a fulfilling thing. It's not a surface happiness. I have a good time with my guys and to hell with everybody else. So those are different things. So bring that back into the situation now and understand that the way that we experience work has a big part to do with our mental health, our well-being overall, and how much of that spills out into our life. And let's talk about work-life integration now. You and I have tried to create the kind of life where we give ourselves permission to flow in and out of both the things that we do. Why? Because we love what we do. We don't even see it as work. Our contribution feels less like work, but more part of our life. When people seek work-life balance, that's a misnomer. That's not what it is, because your work and your life are not equal. It implies that there's an equality between that.
And that's not true, right?
In your life, it's a part of your life. And that's what people need to understand. Allow it to be part of your life and allow your life to flow through your work and out of work. That's the integration. The same way that you may be called upon to work late one night or come in on a weekend and do contribute, you need to accept that you have the right and permission to step away to go take your kid to the doctor or go watch their ball game or experience something in your personal life. Those things, and employers that understand that flexibility are the ones that are winning the hearts and minds of their employees.
And this is what you do with senior leaders. You get them to actually see that there is benefits to having that kind of flexibility, especially in the post-pandemic world, right?
Absolutely. And they are the most that need it, because they are the ones that live and breathe what they do with the huge responsibility that they have on their shoulders. But they need to understand how that flows. For example, you and I run our businesses. I may wake up in the middle of the night with an idea and a need to go put something down on paper on my computer because I have that idea, or I forgot to send something to a client. I will get up and do that. But I also will give myself permission to step away in the middle of the day and do something for myself or for my family. That's the integration that I allow. Even recently, I mean, I spent 5 weeks in Greece. You and I have talked about the lifestyle that we want to create. My work allows me to be location agnostic, to be able to migrate, to take my laptop and my business anywhere in the world. The only thing I have to take into consideration is the time zone differences, because I can serve my clients just as effectively from across the globe as I can from down the street or even in front of them.
You guys have to share something really personal about Coach Kon. So about a month ago, he sent me this picture, and it's him in his bathing suit, his sunglasses. And he's getting a new home with his wife in the Greek island of Kefalonia, which is just beautiful. It's like the dream come true, right? He has his laptop right in front of him. Behind the laptop is his swimming pool. Behind that is the view, and behind that is the sea, the Greek Sea. And I'm like, this is your office? You're really suffering out there, my friend, aren't you? And like you said, the only thing is the time difference. But we're flexible people. Greece is, let's say 7, 8, 9 hours, depending on what part of the world you are in the United States. So you do the work in a little bit in reverse. Mornings here in the US are sort of late afternoons or evenings in Greece. And I do the same thing. We make those adjustments.
Mhm.
And, people say, like, you guys live like, you're so lucky sometimes. I hear that a lot. I hear that about you too. And I'm like, maybe luck has played part of it, but I also think that we mindfully, I mean, we've been talking about creating this in our life for years now, in great detail, methodically, planning it, and then executing the plan.
Right.
And, so far, so good. It's working out. Who knows how long we'll be blessed enough to continue to live this,
Mhm.
bicontinental life, I guess. I don't know. I know what bicoastal is, New York and LA. I don't know when you live in a different country some of the time. But, this digital nomad and still be able to be productive.
Right.
That was, I tested it out before Coach Kon did. And then I'm like, I think this can work. And then he's been doing it for the last 2 or 3 years, and it is working. And actually, the productivity has not gone down. It's
No.
gotten better.
Mm-hmm. But isn't that a big part of what we want to talk about? When we feel fulfilled at what we're doing, when we feel satisfied, whether you can live the lifestyle that we're trying to create or not, you contribute very, very differently. It's a big part of what you can do. I mean, the work that we do, it's a big part of it is how satisfied, how engaged can we be? Now, we are lucky. A third of the working population can't do their job remotely. I mean, you can't build buildings
Right.
remotely. You have to do that. So a lot of the people that I work with have a different thing, but it's also one of those things where they don't have to carry it with them. Once they leave the work site, they don't have to carry it with them. There is a responsibility and a burden because I'm available and accessible. The work-life integration allows me to be available and accessible at all sorts of hours. It also demands that I set clear boundaries about when is work, when it is that I'm with my family. If I don't do that, that's where the downside comes in.
Right.
And we felt the pressures. You and I have gone through this turbulence where it's very easy to allow that to impede on your personal time. And that's where you start getting burnt out. I almost got burnt out a few years ago. The reward for good work is more work. And at some point, you have to set boundaries.
Say that again. The reward for good work is more work. That's
It's more work.
beautiful. It's and so true, right? Um, our time is coming to a close, my friend. I know this has been I want to talk about maybe the next couple of minutes before we close. What are the actual benefits of an engaged employee to the organization and to the bottom line? Like specifically, like these are like the 5 things that you get an engaged employee who's happy, or this is what you get in return.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, we know that companies keep preaching that their people are their greatest asset, but they don't always treat them that way. But the numbers are showing that disengagement, when people are not engaged at work, it's costing companies. When only 1 in 3 or 1 in 5 globally are reporting that they are engaged and giving their best at work, that
Yikes.
loss of productivity costs companies globally 8.9 trillion or 9% of the global GDP. This is not chump change. This is significant. And when you see engaged companies, the ones that are reporting the highest engagements are the ones that are outperforming their competition in the marketplace, because turnover is down, so they're not losing good people. Productivity is up, fulfillment is up, profits are up. All of those things are helping companies. Why? Because it's not just smart business to engage your people and invest in them properly. It's the right thing to do.
Coach Kon, thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom. What is like one pearl of wisdom you want to leave with the audience as we depart? And also, how can people reach to you? I know freshbizsolutions.com, right? That's one.
Yep.
And LinkedIn. I guess those are the top places for people to engage with you.
Yep. And the
All right.
website.
I want to hear your pearl of wisdom. Let's go. Let's bring it home, baby.
Here's the thing. If you want people to feel engaged, help them feel valued, help them feel connected, help them feel productive, and help them feel supported to learn and grow. That's the secret sauce.
That is the secret sauce. The Engagement Blueprint best-selling book just came out this year. So if your organization is struggling, I highly recommend it, and bring this good man into your organization, and you'll see miracles happen. He has turned around organizations, left and right, and always does it with diligence, with kindness, with love, and inspires others to be their best selves. But not just at work. This is the good thing, but also at home as well. Thank you, my friend. Thanks for being on the show. I appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
So you heard that from Coach Kon. Happiness at work. We do spend so much time out of our daily lives at work. And he said 8 hours, like I think that's minimum, because a lot of us don't compartmentalize. So we bring home a lot of the stress and a lot of the anxiety or the engagement and the good feelings that we have at work. And it's our choice. I guess I'd like for you to think, like, tomorrow and the rest of this week, when you come home from work and you step into our home, what energy are you bringing in? And I just want you to be aware and be mindful. So let's say your significant other asks, so how was work today, honey? What is your answer going to be in your heart? Like, oh, I hated it, miserable, I'm so stressed out, I can't, or, you know what? I had a great time at work, and now I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and help out here at home, right? Those are the two different entries we can do when we come home from work. And it really depends. Are we disengaged, miserable, frustrated, and angry? Or are we coming from saying, you know what, I really love my work. It doesn't even feel like work. It feels like a calling. And just notice it for right now. We're going to give you, more homework to come up with that. Just notice which one it is. Obviously, if it's the first one, what do you need to do to make a difference and to turn that around? And if you're happily engaged and you come home or you bring that positive energy, that's great. That's where we want to end up in the end. Thanks again for watching the show. I can't wait for next week. See you soon.